to a life of more impact, influence, and financial freedom. And you can grab a copy, free copy, mind you, at sevenfigureexpertbook.com. And I would love to bring up Dr. Noah St. John. Welcome, Noah. It's good to have you with us.
Thanks, Parisa. Great to be here with you today.
Oh, so good. I've heard nothing but the most amazing things about you, by the way, from Mary Glorfield. She is like, I continue to say she's like the real MVP here. Just heart, soul, and action all the way through. So I would love to know, to help create context for those that are listening, this first initial dive in, that would be, what is your definition of leadership, or your definition of leader? And then I'd like to build from there.
Absolutely. And yes, I do want to give a shout out to my dear friend, Mary Glorfield. We've known each other for probably about over 20 years now. I've spoken on many of her stages all around the globe, and she is the best in the business. So great to be here. And thanks, Mary, for making this connection. So yeah, I mean, this is all about leadership. And what's great is this is exactly my wheelhouse. As you mentioned, I've written 25 books, pretty much on this subject right here about leadership. So really, what is it? Well, of course, we have so many definitions of it, but the way that I like to look at leadership is I like to look at it from an inside out perspective. Many people are trying to come at leadership from an outside in perspective. That means like, we've got to hit our KPIs. We've got to make sure that everything is in place. And that is very important. All those things are very important. But what I like to talk about with leadership is coming from what I like to call your inner game. Because when we look at success, this phenomenon called success, which I've written all these books about and do coaching and keynote speaking on, it really comes from those two places. If you think about a Venn diagram, which has two circles that meet in the middle, the first circle is inner game. That means everything that happens between your ears that you can't see directly, but it affects everything that you do. And then you have the outer game, and that's everything you can see directly. That also affects everything. What's so fascinating is that so many people, particularly entrepreneurs, people starting their business or wanting to grow their business, they're completely focused on their outer game, the funnels, traffic, offers, things like that. That's all very important. But what they're missing many times is that inner game component. And once they install that inner game, using my power habit system, that's what we call it, the power habit system, they're able to really, really scale up to an incredible degree, in many cases, doubling, tripling, or more. And as you mentioned, I'm known for helping people make more in just 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months, while also winning their lives back at the same time. So this isn't about the hustle and the grind. There's plenty of other people that say that and that teach that. But no, I'd rather have a life and have your business serve your life rather than the other way around.
Okay. So inner and outer game. Oh, that's solid. Yes. And I love that you brought up how it is very traditional and to be expected for many people, even a lot of speakers, to talk about the outer game of leadership and the KPIs and the marketing and the funnels and all the things. And that serves a purpose and a time, and there's necessity there. And something that I feel like has been such a very clear thread today in particular, with starting out with, as Jim Keys was talking about earlier today, as we started the day, he mentioned that if you can't, you're only going to discover leadership when you lead yourself, when you actually learn the nuances of yourself, how you lead. And it's going to continue to look different in each circumstance, each situation, due to variables, human beings, and our complexities, all of the things, right? So I love that you brought up, I love the way, although it's a similar thread, which only proves the alignment of those that are here on the broadcast, which is key. And for those that are listening, I want to make sure when I'm saying alignment, I'm not saying people copying whatever anyone is saying or parroting what others are saying. They're speaking to a similar context, a similar message and concept, but their own articulation through their own understanding, their knowledge, their learnings. So it's so important that we do have so many different speakers speaking on this singular topic of leadership as a whole, because we each learn from a different person, right? And I know that you know that, Dr. Noah St. John. I know that you know that. And I think that it's also helpful for us to be reminded of that, myself included, because it's a great reminder to always be in that learning mindset. And although one speaker can talk about the inner journey of the leader, the necessity of that, the way you broke it down, like the inner and the outer game. I love that you said game. I'm a former athlete, so I definitely identify with a very strategic way of going about thinking and about applying the tools that I have or the tools that I don't have that I need to learn. So I would love if you could dive a bit into the inner game and shed some light on that in a way that and then we'll dive into outer game next. Yeah, just inner game first.
Absolutely, sure. So I want people to know that, my teaching comes from a very organic place. And what I mean by that is I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I know that's a total cliche, but it's true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community, and the have-nots was my family. And I just hated being poor. You hear speakers all the time, they'll get on stage and they'll say things like, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We knew, we didn't know we were poor. Well, my family, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So no, it wasn't happy. It sucked. So The point is, I hated being poor. So I said, how the heck do I get from here to there? And of course, this was long before the internet or all the tools we have today. So I did the only thing I could think of, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. I ended up reading over 300 self-help books over the years. And they all basically say the same thing. For those of you who've read a lot of books like I have, they all basically say the same, set your goals and think positive and work hard and use them. They all say the same basic thing. So I just immersed myself. I spent an insane amount of time studying these things. But you know what? As hard as I tried, I couldn't get it to work as hard as I tried. And so at the age of 25, I actually made a decision, which was to take my own life. I decided to commit suicide at age 25. Now, at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. And so I said, I've got to find, what am I doing here on this planet? What is my purpose on the earth? And I didn't know how to answer that question. So I went back to the library. And this time I read every book in the spiritual section. What is my purpose? How to find, why am I here? What's my mission on the earth? These are questions that humans have been asking for centuries, right? And so I just immersed myself in that literature. Then fast forward 5 years later, in 1997, I had these epiphanies when I finally realized what was missing in all of those books that I'd spent so much time and effort reading. And I realized, aha, this is my mission. And that's when I created something that I call the Power Habits System. And the full name of it is the Power Habits of Unconsciously Successful People. Now, that sounds like a mouthful, but it's actually very simple. I'll break it down for you. So what I realized is that highly successful people, the people we look up to, the gurus and so forth, they are doing things unconsciously that they don't even know they're doing, number one. And therefore, number two, they can never teach it to us. And that's why I'd spent so many years reading all these books, and they were talking on the conscious level. Now, those of you who've done any studying in human nature know that we humans are like an iceberg. About 5% is visible above the surface. The vast 95% is below the surface. It's just like that with human beings. You have the 5% that's the conscious mind. It's up here, it's only 5%, but the vast 95% is in the subconscious mind. That means up to 95% of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions every day are subconscious. That means you do it by habit. You don't even think about it. And so think about this. What all the other habit training is about the 5%. That means change your conscious thoughts, change your conscious habits. Nothing wrong with that. But here's my question. Imagine if you're going into battle and you got 5 guys fighting 95 guys. Who do you think is going to win? Exactly, the 95, but only every time. Right. So that's why with the Power Habit System, what I realize is if we can get from the subconscious, bring it to the conscious level, and then we can make conscious choices about what we're doing, our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions, then we can truly become the successful people that we want to be. And that's what I've proven in thousands of cases. If you go to my website, you can see just literally hundreds and hundreds of case studies of, celebrities and athletes and CEOs and entrepreneurs, chiropractors, health professionals, network marketers, real estate professionals. Just across the board. And why is that? Because we're dealing with this. We're dealing with the human mind, which really hasn't changed much over the centuries. So that's what's so exciting about it, because people realize, oh my gosh, Like I had one woman who was a self-proclaimed seminar junkie. She'd been going to all these seminars for many, many years. Maybe some people can relate to that. And she was doing well. She was doing 6 figures, but she couldn't break through that income ceiling. Then I was able to coach her. And in 2 weeks, she tripled her investment with me. 2 weeks, she tripled her investment. We hadn't even gotten to the money part yet. So that's how powerful these power habits really, really are. And once you understand them and master them, boom, you can really change your life very, very quickly.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yes and yes. Okay, so I'm going to go in a direction that I just feel like we need to go into. Okay. So there's as you were talking about when you were 25 and your experience then, and that how that moment itself was a pivotal moment, because that really allowed you to become I would say probably ask different questions than you maybe have asked before, or be receptive to answers that you hadn't heard yet to the same questions.
Mhm.
So I actually just more recently had posted something because I just felt like it was on my heart, and it's connected so much with this whole week for leadership, which like, well, no wonder it was on my heart to post this, because it's all connected, of course. And it was this ultimately what I was communicating is that there was a time in my life when I had a deep level of despair, and I didn't know why. Like why I was here. And it's a very like simple, very, existential kind of question, but I wanted to understand why in a very tangible way. And I think that we all do. But I know that the place that I was at when I asked that question was at a place where I wanted something that was very tangible for me to understand how to move forward with. I didn't need all the answers. I just needed something to like move forward with, some kind of something to put into my process. And I remember hearing this one statement, and it was find the authority of your voice. Of course, I went into the deep dive and the etymology and the definitions of all like the study of authority. And then it led me to the word author. And now having this conversation with you right here, right now, as I'm hearing you speak, you have this very sincere authority of your own voice. And it's not necessarily vocal tone. I would love if you could dive a bit into that, into specifically, when I say authority of your own voice, what would you say? How would you describe that? What would you say regarding that authority of your own voice?
Well, I love that you brought up etymology, because that's actually one of my hobbies.
Oh, thank you.
So I love that word. And, being an author of 25 books, I really connect with that as well. So as I'm sure you know, Parisa, and maybe some other folks do, but if you weren't aware, the word author actually comes from the Latin word augere, which means to create. It is to be the creator of your own life. And so that means a lot to me, And so when I had those epiphanies back in 1997, so keep in mind, I've been doing this for 30 years now, literally helping people to make a lot of money. I mean, adding 6 figures, 7 figures, even 8 figures and more, to their business, to their lives, while winning their lives back. But also, helping people overcome addiction, helping people to save their marriages, helping people to find love, maybe for the first time or after being out of the game for a long time, whatever it might be. And so think about this. We're talking about the human being, right? So these habits affect everything that you do. Like I was saying a moment ago about your inner game, it affects everything that you do, but it's invisible, right? So you can't see a belief. You can only see the effects of a belief. That's why you may be doing well in one area of your life, but maybe in another area you're stuck or struggling. For example, maybe, your business is going great, but maybe your health is suffering. Maybe you're working 14, 18 hours a day. That's not so great, not necessarily sustainable really over the long term. Also, conversely, maybe you're feeling great, you're healthy, your relationships are good, but you're not making the money you want, right? So it's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's all very customized and personalized, the work that we do with people. So talking about the authority of your own voice, for me, it's very simple. It comes down to one word, and that word is pain, right? So I share my story, with my audience members, because I want them to know, number one, I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Number two, I don't think we had spoons. And number three, all we ate was macaroni and cheese. So, I mean, believe me, it sucked. Okay. We had no money. It was truly awful. And what's interesting about that, and I share that story on purpose so that people realize that, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say, sure, you were handed everything. Really? Okay. Not so much. In fact, not at all. Nobody handed me anything. And it's been incredible pain, right? That has gotten me this far. And it's funny is I was actually on stage one time and somebody asked me a question in the audience, and I had actually never shared my suicide story before. I had never shared it in public before because I didn't want people to take it the wrong way. Like I was trying to get sympathy or for me or something like that. And I didn't want it to come across wrong. And I just kind of blurted it out. I said, well, when I was 25, I decided to take my own life. And people were like, what? They were just shocked. And I was like, oh, and I realized that, wait a minute, I need to share that. And the reason is, or a reason is, I think, because when people realize that that's about as low as you can get in terms of self-esteem,
Yes.
believing in yourself, thinking good about yourself or anything like that. I mean, I was at a 0, so I guess maybe the lesson is for people watching and listening, if I can get from that as low as you can get to, where I am today, which is pretty nice, I think anybody can do it. But you still have to take action though. This isn't, there's a lot of people that teach, well, just think positive, you can do it and psych yourself up. And I'm like, okay, but that's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on someone who's having a heart attack. It's not really going to get the job done. We got to get to the root cause of why we're in that situation in the first place. Thomas Jefferson had a great quote that I love. He said, for every 99 that's hacking away at the leaves of truth, there's one striking at the root. And that's what I strive to be. I strive to be the one that is saying, okay, look, here's the root cause of why you may be holding yourself back from the success you're capable of. Boom, let's remove those root causes. And that's when we get what I like to call hockey stick growth. And I've got tons of examples of that.
Hockey stick growth. I've never had that analogy or that illustration connected to it. I really appreciate that. I have a whole new picture in my head now. That's awesome. People say like quantum growth or all these things, but I'm like, I need a physical thing. And that is exactly the thing. Thank you. That was so good. Oh my gosh, there was so much that you shared. And so thank you for answering my very like off the cuff question. I tend to come with off the cuff questions for everybody.
I'm an open book, Marisa. Ask me anything you want.
I genuinely, I appreciate the fact that you are just 100% down to, take my lead on this. And I'm saying this because not all speakers are, and that's okay. But I personally enjoy being able to just be so present and connect with what's being said and shared in the moment and pick up on where you're at and do my best to navigate it there, because I feel that the best value is offered then. So thank you. I appreciate this. Okay. So going from the authority, and yes, you have the word author that's connected to it, which the root of that word, yes, is to create. And when I discovered that, I was like, my mind is blown. It's still blown. And it just really does connect with the power of our words. Our words matter. We hold such power in these words. And so thank you for shedding light on that in your perspective, your words. So we dove into a bit of the inner game. I would love to dive into the outer game, and because it's necessary, in particular, because I feel like the outer game is talked about so much, but I want to talk about, if you could shed light on how to orient or how to relate your mind regarding the outer game.
Yep. Okay. So you mentioned a moment ago, my book, The 7-Figure Expert. And again, you can get a free copy at 7figureexpertbook.com. And that's exactly what I walk people through. It's my 5-phase 7-figure expert formula. Everything that I do is a formula, a framework, a system, because it really annoyed me when I was reading all those books and the guy would tell a bunch of story. And I'm like, dude, that's not helping. You're not helping me. I don't care that you made $10 million. I mean, but I want to know how you did it and how I can do it. Right. So anyway, everything I do is a framework because, I can't stand people that just get up and tell story. Anyway, so in the book, what I talk about is the 5 phases. Now, the first 2 are inner games. So that's your habits and your beliefs. So your beliefs and habits, it really comes from your inner game. Then the second phase, which is 3 phases, is your offers, funnels, and traffic. So that's your outer game. So if you think about your inner game as beliefs and habits, right? So those are things you can't necessarily see directly, but you see the effects of them everywhere. And then in the outer game, you have your offers, funnels, and traffic. All right. So when you put those together, boom, you got a 7-figure expert business. Okay. Now, what I want people to realize is that when you're building your business, for those of you that either are already in business or maybe want to start a business, maybe thinking about doing it, it's really like building a house. All right. So building your business is a lot like building a house. Number one, there's a lot of parts to it. There's a lot of moving parts. Number two, did you know that most entrepreneurs, whether you've been doing this for a while or maybe you're just getting started, what they do is they say, man, I really want a house. And then they wake up in the morning and go, geez, it's awfully cold in here. I guess I need a house. And so what they do is they start slapping boards together, right? Like, oh man, we got to slap boards together over here, slap them over here. Well, what are you missing? You're missing a plan. Right? So imagine if you try to build a house without a blueprint. How's that going to go? Not so great, right? And that's what millions of entrepreneurs are unknowingly and unwittingly doing. They don't want to do it. They don't mean to do it, but they've never been taught. I mean, for example, remember that class on entrepreneurship that you took in school? Of course you don't, because you didn't, right? Because they don't offer this. At least not when I was in school, they didn't. So mostly you don't, and you're just making it up. You're trying to figure it out. That's certainly what I did for the first 10, 12 years of my business. I'm like, what the heck is going on around here? And what do I do? Right. So that's why I needed a framework, and now I teach it to others. All right. So going back to the house analogy, right? It's your inner game is the foundation. Right. So you've got to have a strong foundation for your house. Right. I mean, if you don't, your house is going to blow over in the first wind. Right. I mean, we all know that. Right. So it's the stuff you can't see that actually makes a house a house. And that's your inner game. That's why we have to start there. What's funny is that so many people have spent years and years and maybe thousands of dollars on the outer game. Right. All the offer, because that's what all the marketing gurus talk about. Nothing wrong with that. But it's exactly like trying to build a house from the outside in. You can't do it. You cannot do it. I'll give you a quick example. I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles for 1,000 entrepreneurs, right? These are high level people, 7 and 8 company, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and, high level people. I spoke for 30 minutes. I was walking off the stage. A man came up to me and he said, Noah, I want to hire you as my coach. You are the coach I've been looking for. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. And so I said, you could go on my website and see. But anyway, so he said, okay. I said to him, well, what's going on? He goes, no, I'm the owner of this company, and we got to 7 figures really fast, but we have been plateaued for the past 4 years. We've been stuck at the same level. And he said, I spent all this money on all these marketing guys and named all these big gurus. I spent so much money and we can't break through that income ceiling. And he said, as soon as I heard you speak about inner game and outer game and head trash and everything you just said, he said, I knew you were the coach I've been looking for. So he literally decided to hire me on the spot. That's why I love working with high achievers, right? Because they make decisions quickly and friendly. They don't dilly-dally, don't mess around. Oh, I got to think about it. No, let's do it. So I coached him and his leadership team for 18 months. And in that time, we were able to get his company that had been stuck, plateaued at 7 figures for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in revenues, a 600% increase. And you can see his video and many others on my website. So that's why we like to call it hockey stick. So you go along like this and then whoop, you put the power habits in and whoop, you go right up like that. So what's the point of the story? The point of the story is for everyone listening, whether you're making 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, or whatever you're at, there's always an inner component that you're probably missing. Why? Well, because no one taught it to you, right? Just like no one taught it to me. Even after reading over 300 books in this industry, they still didn't tell it, right? So I had to write my books for me, right? I wrote them for me because I'm like, gosh, I need this. And nobody wrote it, so I guess I'll do it myself. So yes, you need to find your voice, like you were saying earlier, Parisa, but definitely make sure you master your inner game, and then boom, the outer game will follow.
Oh, so good. Oh my gosh, you came and delivered. You understood the assignment, as the people say. Oh, so good. I would love to give you 1 minute close. You have the floor. Share whatever you'd like to share, what's on your heart, mind, and all you. It has been such an honor to have you here today. I mean, we could go for hours. This is so easy.
Yeah.
And you've been such an honor. It's an honor, and you've been such a joy to you. So thank you. And
absolutely. Well, yeah, I'll just reiterate that, make sure you can go to my website, noahstjohn.com. We got lots of different programs. The book is free, 7figureexpertbook.com. And, we've just got tons of resources. You can go to my YouTube channel. But, really, it's an honor to do the work that I get to do, to see people like Adam and all the rest of the amazing, amazing clients that I have from literally around the world. And so it's such an honor to be here. And, hope we can do it again real soon.
You can count on that. Done. Easy. Absolutely. It's so good. So good to have you here with us. Dr. Noah St. John, everyone. And that is a wrap for that segment.